missed our total lack of
Yeah, you
ability to
just saw
function
us.
earlier today.
We
A couple minutes ago.
were.
It was a hot mess.
Yeah, it was. We needed another stooge, and then we could have been the Three Stooges, right? Would that have been appropriate?
Which is good.
Potentially.
I could be Curly. We needed Larry, Mo, somebody like whatever.
I'm the one with the good hair.
Whoever you want to be.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. We could have did a comedy skit like how to check if a plug was plugged
I was
in
gonna
to
say, what were you
electricity.
doing?
Yeah, we were trying to charge my computer. Well, first,
Oops. Thank you.
Ryan, I'm like trying to find something to clean the table. So then Ryan's sweet enough to come over and clean the table for me. So then we try to plug in my computer. So then we're plugging it.
Wow, oh well, it was gross.
Good evening.
Because
Welcome.
she stayed with us every time.
I'd like to call to order this regularly scheduled
Yeah.
Board of Education meeting, Wednesday, June 11th, 2025. It is 5:30. Ms. Stokely, could you please call the roll?
Ms. Coco?
Here.
Mr. Gomez?
Here.
Mr. Harris?
Here.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Here.
Ms. White?
Here.
And B is motion to approve the agenda. It is recommended that the Board of Education approves the agenda of the June 11th, 2025 Board of Education meeting. Action by the Board of Education and adoption of a consent agenda means that all items are adopted by one singular motion unless a member of the Board of Education, treasurer, or superintendent requests that any such item be removed from the consent agenda and voted upon separately.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Ms. Stokely, please call the roll.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Here, aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Ms. C is our opening ceremony. This meeting is a meeting of the Cuyahoga Falls Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business. It is not a public community meeting, although there are opportunities for public participation. If an individual wishes to address the board regarding a topic found on the meeting agenda, the individual must complete a registration form found inside the attendance notebook and present it to the treasurer. Following the introduction of the topic by the board president, followed by board discussion, the individual will be recognized. If an individual wishes to address the board regarding a topic not found on the meeting agenda, he or she may notify the superintendent and/or board president of the topic no later than 3 business days in advance of the meeting. These individuals may share their comments during the board business portion of the agenda. In both cases, the individual will preface comments by an announcement of his or her name and address and limit comments to 3 minutes. All statements should be directed to the board president. No person may address or question board members individually. An unabridged board agenda for this meeting can be found on your electronic device as shown on the screen, and for your convenience, hard copies of the board agenda may be found on the table by the sign-in book. The next work session of the Cuyahoga Falls Board of Education is June 18th, 2025 at 5:30 p.m. in the Cuyahoga Falls High School Library. The next regularly scheduled meeting of the Cuyahoga Falls Board of Education is June 25th, 2025 at 5:30 in the Cuyahoga Falls High School Library. And now for our Pledge of Allegiance, and welcome Mr. Gomez.
You'll please stand as you're able and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome. Our vision, Cuyahoga Falls City Schools, the hub of our community, committed to a culture of caring. We innovate, we create, we personalize education for all. Our mission, every student, every day, every opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. Item D is Treasurer CFO's Business Consent Agenda.
Thank you. I'd like to recommend the Board of Education approve all items in the treasurer's consent agenda.
So moved.
Second. Jeez.
We just have, I have the minutes and then the donations, that are on there, there's quite a number of them. A couple at Richardson and Price, and the, urban agriculture, so, and then the Bird Bags, and some more Black Tiger Family Center, so, we certainly appreciate those, from all of those different businesses and
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, Mr. Wood, please call the roll.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Ms. Coker?
Aye. Item E is treasurer CFO's business.
Just the discussion on the student level pricing, so know exactly where you guys want to start.
So, Mr. Bailey, if you would, maybe give a little overview, I know you provided some information to the board, but the history of maybe where our prices have been, where we've stayed, and what you're suggesting that we consider for the future, and a little bit of history of maybe why you need
Okay,
additional funds. Thanks.
so the last time we had a price increase, or a price, I should say a price change, was 2015. And at Roberts, or I should say the middle school and the high school, they had like a dual price. And what happened there was they just eliminated one of the prices. I think at the middle school was they eliminated, I don't remember the price of that one, but they just had a $3 price, and then the other one, I think it was a $3.50, and then they just changed it to $3. And then the other one was the one at the high school was a $3.50 and a $3.75 or $3.35, and they eliminated the $3.50 and just had it as a $3.35 price. So during 2019, I started to look at raising prices. Then I got a little sidetracked, the pandemic, and so I had to set that aside. And during the pandemic, we were given funding for the food service department. And 2022, 23, other districts were either going into CEP or raising their prices. And I was going to raise our prices then, but I couldn't justify it with the funding we had in our account. And then we had the SANS group that I belong to. They had a survey done. I believe everybody has this chart with the different prices for the schools, and we're pretty much the lowest price school lunch pricing in the area. So my discussion and proposal is maybe to raise the price a little bit to get in level with these other districts.
Could you just state for our discussion what you're proposing those prices to be raised
Yes.
to? For everyone.
And you guys should have this also, but so for the elementary, It's currently at, okay, so elementary, let's talk breakfast, it's at $1.20. And I'm proposing to raise that to $1.50. Middle school, breakfast is $1.75, proposing to raise that to $2.35. High school's $1.95, raising that to also $2.35 because it's gonna be the campus. And
Bill-
then,
Bill, excuse me,
yes.
one second.
No.
Do I have the wrong sheet?
Well, what I have in front of me that Mr. Jones printed for me today says $2.
I have
Okay.
breakfast is $1.20 at elementary, proposed increase 10 cents to 1.30. Middle school 1.75, increase of 10 cents to 1.85. High school $1.95, increase of 5 cents to $2.
Oh, I have to 150. For
I
breakfast,
do too.
120 to 150, and 250 to 275 for lunch.
The ones that you were, did anyone bring their own copies today?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
this is my own,
Okay.
this is the copy.
I have 175 to 2, and then
I have the other ones
195 to 2. So, let's, which one is?
Mine are the same
Yeah, it's the
as,
same one.
as one he just gave
Let
us.
me see what, okay.
You guys looking at this one, this sheet?
Here.
No,
I
Okay,
think we have that one. Do you have
yeah, I
that?
don't have that one.
I think I have that one.
that's in the link, there's a link in the cabinet notes that
Do we have that?
That's not the same as what they wanted.
Yeah.
I was looking at that one.
I don't think we need, just what are the proposed, the new proposed?
I mean, I was writing down the proposed, I mean,
Yeah.
I have them written down here.
The new ones. I think
So
that-
what do you guys have? What
You-
is,
What was your, I had the ones for middle,
No, because-
middle school, high school,
Oh.
235,
Because
right?
it's still
Yeah.
120. We're still at 120 now, so that the top and the bottom don't match.
Oh, yeah, oh, I see, you're saying the top and the bottom
Right,
don't
I was
match.
looking at
Because
the
we're
bottom.
still at
Yes.
120. So are we
The-
going up
So what are we
by
looking at?
10 cents, or are we going up?
We're
by-
looking at the bottom numbers, the top
30
don't
cents.
match the bottom numbers.
Big
He's looking at the top numbers, which don't match the bottom numbers.
Oh,
We're
okay.
looking at different sets of numbers.
Oh, gotcha, okay, we do have,
Yeah.
we do have it here.
you do have it?
We are, these numbers right here are what you're saying, but these numbers don't match these numbers.
This chart here, this bottom chart, that's the survey that was done,
Okay,
okay? And those are current prices. So that's the survey. You're looking at this one with the yellow, we're highlighted in yellow. This is current prices, and this was the survey that was done with all the other districts.
Okay.
And then I sent this for, in the cabinet notes, and this chart here should be the proposed increases.
So I think the challenge might be because they're not, are they not?
I think
labeled?
that I've been,
So-
right, I was reading this, I didn't realize that this was the survey. I was
Yeah, that's the survey.
looking at that, as that's what our proposed, what our current, because it says current, or,
And
you know,
then
it's highlighted.
proposed.
yeah, I see proposed.
And then
no
it
problem.
says proposed underneath. So that's what I was reading as our proposed prices.
Yeah,
So are we
I don't know if that's what
proposing the
everyone
10
else
cents, the
said.
10 cents, and the 5 cents?
Well, it's a lot.
Was that sent in the?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought we changed, well, I mean,
So Bill, why don't we just pause a moment and
Okay.
why don't you, they can write them in and we apologize board
Yep.
for all
Mm-hmm. No,
the
yeah, that's fine.
copies here, but why don't you tell them what you are proposing right now?
Yeah,
okay.
And we'll just write that in.
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
Okay, so I'll go back over it again. So I'm looking at breakfast pricing. The current price for elementary is $1.20. The proposed price, $1.50. Middle school middle school is $1.75. Proposed price, $2.35. High school, 195, proposed price 235. And again, those are combined because of the campus. If we move over to lunch, it's, elementary is at 250, proposed price 275. Middle school is at $3, proposed price $375. High school is at $335, proposed price is $375 also.
Did everyone get that, or do we need clarification? Everybody okay
I
on
think
that?
I got it.
Okay.
So the numbers aren't correct on the top part either, so I shouldn't look at those.
Numbers aren't correct
We'll just
anywhere.
Write them down and let's look at what he
Just
just.
go with these.
So it's an increase, if you want the increases.
So it's even more of an
Wait,
increase
one
than what
moment.
I thought. Okay.
Breakfast increases at elementary by 30
30
cents,
cents.
middle school by 60 cents, high school by 40 cents.
Mm-hmm.
Lunch increases in elementary by 25 cents, middle school 75 cents, and high school by 40 cents.
Okay.
Yes, correct.
What would our reduced prices be?
They stayed the same. We don't set those. Those
Okay.
are set by the state,
Oh, okay.
which is 30 cents for breakfast and 40 cents for lunch. And then let's cross our fingers and hope that it's
Yeah.
gonna, those
Keep that.
students will stay free this year. We won't know until the budget,
Yeah.
governor's budget.
Bill, talk just a moment about the history of your budget. So where you were and where you are now, because I think that is part of.
I have Ms. Stoikoi give
Yeah,
that to us.
so-
Okay, so
So
go
I
ahead.
asked her to give us that
Yeah.
history,
Yeah.
and to go back pre-COVID, to give us more
Yes.
information on that. So we
Yeah.
have balances, revenues, expenditures, and beginning balances, 2015 to 2025.
Okay, I
And
just-
before we move on though, I know we were looking at districts that are around us. I just wanted to add that, Barber, I don't know if you want to add this to your like list of prices. Barberton breakfast is $1.80 in elementary school, middle school is $2, high school is $2. Their lunch is, in elementary is $2.40, middle school is $2.65, high school is $2.90.
That's on the list, correct?
It is not.
No.
Streetsboro, breakfast is $2.25 for elementary school.
Well, then you might have an older one, because I have it in mind.
We did not
So number
receive
You
that.
added
Oh,
Barberton.
okay. Yeah,
I
Barberton's
asked
added
you
in.
for it
Okay.
in your second round, and you included it later.
Okay,
Oh, okay.
We didn't
Be
receive
good.
that one.
Well,
it's number, yeah.
I guess my concern, now that we have the numbers,
Yeah.
initially is that if you look at breakfast and lunch prices, it doesn't seem like we're getting in line with other districts. It seems like we're jumping to the front of the line in terms of price. We would be pretty high if you're looking at this chart we're given. We wouldn't really be in the middle. We'd be one of the higher price district, and a lot of these districts are places that are wealthier than us. So that gives me a lot of consternation, and I don't think I could support going this high when being this high isn't seem to be aligned with where other districts are. If it was about getting in line with other districts, that would be one thing, but if we're gonna be one of the highest, I don't know that I could support that.
Are you talking breakfast or?
Breakfast and lunch, both.
Yeah.
I mean, $3.75 for lunch puts us,
At
especially
the
at middle
top,
school,
yeah.
puts us pretty high. And even for high school, it puts us in the higher, puts us definitely in the higher tier.
Yeah.
And at breakfast, we would be very much, there would only be two higher than us at middle school and 3 higher than us at high school. So it doesn't put us in line, it puts us at the top.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to go, I liked the proposed that I had, because I didn't think that was, that out, but this is 60 cents and then 75 cents for middle school. That's a lot. 40 cents for high school. To me, it's a lot. I could go 25, 30 cents, which was what I had, you know, for the most part, was just going up a little bit. But that is a little high, those
And Bill,
three.
I'm sorry if you mentioned it, how'd you come to these increases, these numbers?
I was looking at percentages. So like elementary would be 25%, middle school would be 17% for, and these are breakfast.
Okay,
High school would be 17%. The lunch, elementary would be 9%, 25% for middle school, and 10.67 for the high school. I was more or less going by percentages, so.
okay.
But I mean, it's up for negotiation to, you know,
So we're,
change
Sorry.
it if we want to. I mean,
I agree with Ms. White when she, I mean, I love when I saw the regular proposed down here,
Yeah,
and
that was-
there was a misunderstanding, but yeah,
Yeah.
those numbers aren't as bad.
is the increases that you're proposing, are those necessary for us to stay solvent with our food
Good question.
budget? I mean, it's a question for us in this stuff way.
I mean, it's really hard to say because, like specifically, because it all depends on the number of meals, the number of kids that are free and reduced and things like that. So, I mean, you can look at what the trends are for some of them, like, in our free and reduced, like breakfast, you can see. And again, this is just kind of a generalized because I can't split up necessarily the cost for the food for breakfast
Right.
versus what we're using for lunch. So I'm just kind of using percentages based on meals. But if you look at that, I mean, we're about half and half. Half of, on our paid, so our excluding our non-free and reduced, or our free and reduced kids, just paid meals. Some of them we make a little right now and some of them we don't. And then the same thing on the lunch side of like, some of them we are a little above, some of them we are really below. So,
Is it,
but it's all it also all depends on the number of meals.
number of meals that are
Assuming
being
all of that
purchased.
stays the same, that free and reduced stays
Well,
around the same.
my concern would be with this large of an increase, twofold. One, there are a lot of families that we know that do not qualify for free or reduced lunch, that are in the lower middle class, that struggle with being able to provide food for their families, and who are paying full price for their students to eat every day. This large of an increase, you know, say you had 2 students in middle school, it's gonna be over 50, or close to $50 a month more that they're paying for 2 students to eat lunch. So I have a concern with that. And then the second part of that would be my concern that they just say, well, we're not buying lunches anymore because we can't afford that. And then the flip side, are they bringing in and eating nutritious food that meets the guidelines because they're no longer able or willing to pay that much? So those would be my 2 concerns with this large of an increase.
I will point out that, I mean, our expenditures the last 2 years, because of supply chain and things like that, so the expenditures don't take into account any of the COVID revenue. That's just looking at, you know, just what we're expending on food alone. You know, the last 2 years, it's up $400,000 almost over the 22-23 school year, which is quite a jump. If you look at what the past trend was, eliminating the COVID years when expenditures were down because we were either hybrid or closed or et cetera, you know, we were around 1.8, sometimes 1.7, and now we're at almost 2.3 the last 2 years. So expenses have definitely increased because of just the different economic factors that, you know, have been happening the last couple of years.
And I know that we probably do need to raise our prices to counteract that, and our increasing costs. I'm just not sure if I'm comfortable for this large of an increase, if it's not something that we absolutely need to do. Like you said, there's a lot of factors that go into it. And it's hard to say how much do we need to stay solvent with the increase, but I think that
I would say that I don't think it's absolutely necessary that you would need to go to this in order to like keep a positive balance in that fund. But what that magic number may be, you know, it's hard to say, just because, like I said, like a lot of the things you just mentioned, what if the prices increase, not as many people are doing it, that also, how does that affect our expenditures? You know, you are gonna see an increase in expenditures just by nature of health insurance benefits are paid out of here for these workers, that increased significantly. You know, salaries, you know, increase with the negotiated agreement each year. So those expenditures, in addition to the food, you know, aren't going away. But you can see from last year, I mean, about that difference, we've lost about $400,000 in our cash carryover, basically, going forward. And so it's not really, our revenue has kind of stayed pretty steady, increased a little over the years, but our expenses going up has you know, brought that balance down. Now, if we were to have the same thing again, you look this year, we are a difference of about 400, we would not be solvent. So we need to do something.
Right.
Can I
going into next year.
I was thinking, because I'm not sure, again, I know that I worked with Mr. Bailey early on with this, and I did ask him to revise the numbers because I felt they were high, and I anticipated that the board would say that, so I'm not sure. The one that I had in front of me was the one I thought maybe we were gonna go for, which is the one you have, so I might just suggest to the board, perhaps you'd be more comfortable with what is on this piece of paper. This is where I landed, quite frankly, with the increase to $150, $2, and then $275, $350. That also keeps us
Yeah.
very reasonable
Yeah.
and in line, and frankly, still a lot
Yeah.
lower in some areas, but.
Well, I didn't have a problem
It's a
when I
compromise.
saw that,
Yeah.
but.
No.
What was the elementary? 3?
So,
Uh,
wait, for lunch
Lunch?
is it
No,
275?
270.
And
And then 350 for the other two. And I
Okay.
understand the dilemma here a little bit in that we're trying to be consistent with the 6 through 12.
Yeah.
Not that we necessarily need to, but it would make life probably a lot easier if we were consistent since we're in the same campus. And that will throw your averages off just slightly because not
Yeah.
everybody's has the same setup that we
Yeah.
would have with the 6 through 12. They're in middle school and high schools. So I would ask the board to consider those prices as listed there. See how you're feeling there.
The survey's proposed, right, okay.
Yes, at the,
I'm more
I
comfortable
feel more comfortable
with
with those
that.
Yeah.
numbers.
Me too.
I would be as well.
Are they getting the same meal?
Yes.
So they're getting the exact same meal, so it'd be the exact
Yeah.
same price?
Yeah, it should be. It's just
Yeah.
the middle school will go up, 50 cents. That's a jump, but
it's still well in line with the other districts.
I
if
think
you
so.
look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
There's a lot of 350s there.
there is. Yeah.
Even higher and lower.
That's what I'm saying. I think I could support the proposed. But,
I have a few things. One, I think when you look at the historical balance, like pre-COVID to now, I think that's important because we are still, in a way, spending down some of that COVID buffer that we got. And because when you look at where we're at now and where we were ending balance-wise pre-COVID in our food service account, we're still actually a little bit above where our balances were pre-COVID. So I think that's important to know. I wouldn't sound the fire alarm on our balances just yet. I do agree that expenditures are going up. And I would also agree, to counter my point, that 263,000 in 2025 is not the same as it was pre-COVID with inflation. So I'll counter my own point a little bit there. But I do think it's important to look at that historical perspective and perhaps not sound the fire alarm on that yet. And then this other spreadsheet that I asked Ms. Stoicoy to provide, I think is very important. One, just the point that we do get that little bit of chunk of federal reimbursement even on paid meals, I think is an important point to note. And then when you go on this, on the third line down, the long line, and you look at where we are making money or losing money by building, and I'm not gonna call out any building because that's not the point, but when you add that all up, on the total difference, we are still $2.04 to the good per meal, district-wide. So we're still making money with prices being what they are. So I don't think we should be alarmist. I think are our prices low? Yes, I agree with that point wholeheartedly. But I don't think we should be alarmist, and I don't think we need huge increases. I'm not quite even at, if you move elementary breakfast to $150 and elementary lunch to $275, a kid that eats breakfast and lunch at school and pays the elementary school every week, that's a $4 a week increase. That's a lot of money. So I don't know that I can support asking people to pay $4 more a week for their kid to eat at our school. That's a lot of money out
Can
of
you say that
someone's.
again, Mr. Lemos? You were saying
I thought-
30 cents for breakfast at elementary,
30,
cents
30
increase?
cents
So it's
increase.
150, I'm sorry, $1.50 a week, and then you were saying,
oh, I might have done my math wrong.
yeah, 270, so so $1.25, it looks like 275 to me a week more,
That's still a lot.
I think, yes. I just wanna make sure I was
Yeah,
following you.
that's still a lot of money. So I think those elementary kids are getting hit hard. And then what if you just make middle school now, middle school's lower than high school. What if you just
match
bring
it.
middle school up to what high school is now and don't up the high school price?
Yeah.
Because if you're upping the high school price, then you're overly inflating the middle school price to match the high school price.
That's a good point.
And with the way that people have kids, you're very likely to have a middle schooler and a high schooler with those ages. So if you raise the high school price and we're saying we're gonna have them be the same, then you're overly inflating that middle school price to bring it up to match the high school price. And that's a 75 cent. That's a 50 cent increase at middle school, 75 cents per meal, per day for middle school.
I hear what I like what you're saying too, and I think that when we move to the one building too, I think there will probably be some savings and there'll be less waste because you're preparing out of one kitchen also instead of 3 kitchens. I think that that's gonna be to the good as well. So that will save us in food waste as well, so we'll see a savings in food in that way too.
I guess,
I would think, wouldn't you think so?
Yeah.
and then I guess the only other concern I have is that we don't, we could say, yeah, we'll up these prices to this amount, but then if a parent asks us, well, why are you doing that? The only thing that we have to support it is because other districts do it. We don't really have anything to support how it's going to financially benefit the district because we don't have any projections of how it's going to sustain the food service budget. Because they haven't run out of money, and they're not necessarily going to run out of money. So what's going to be our justification when parents are doling out more money? I think we need to work just a little bit more. And I think we could get there if we right-size the increase, but I think we need a little bit more support of what's our rationale for our families for doing this at a time when money's tight.
Makes sense, yeah.
So if in 2024, our ending balance, and like Ms. Stokely said, and then to 2025, if we were to have the same projected expenditures without raising prices in 2026, we would not be solvent.
We'd be in
So-
debt, and we'd have to transfer money from the general fund to cover it.
So we do need to have an increase in prices. I guess my thing is how much do we need to increase in order for us to stay solvent if projected we use the same, if we're going by these numbers from 2025, 24 to 25, 25 to 26, from 25 to 26, if we were to be in the red and have to use general fund, what do we need to increase to break even? Because I don't want to over increase our prices. I want us to be breaking even and feeding our students well. Like, and keep us in the positive, but I also don't think that food service is a place that we need to store a bunch of extra money, if that makes sense.
So I would also keep in mind that right now, the numbers that are in June 2025 are just as of that date. So none of the benefits to the food service for any of the staff have been charged, no retirement, no insurance, no Medicare, and the second pay of the month has also not been charged. So those expenditures will increase, that balance is going to go down further. Right now, that's just what we had up until that point to give you a reference of that. But you can see what historically, we've been around 100, we were around 100 last year, in the month of June for expenses. But we could also still receive some revenue as well. You can see that's down a little from what it was last year, but, we don't get a lot of revenue, especially from, parents or anything in the month of June, obviously, unless it's some sort of, unless they had it set up automatically and their kid went below the threshold towards the end of school, that's really about it.
So if we took our same projected 2026, and I know there's a lot that goes into that as far as the free and reduced, but if we took those figures from this past school year and projected with a price increase of what we just discussed, maybe the one that's written down in the proposed, and then also the one that Mr. Gomez proposed as well, which I think if we can do and stay solvent, if we took both of those and had a projected, this is where projected with this past year's figures with everything, is there a way for us to project, yes, we would be solvent if all of the variables stayed the same? That's.
Well, there's no legal requirement that our food service account be solvent on its own. Most districts aren't solvent on their own. And further, there's no requirement that we pay our salaries and benefits out of the food service budget either. And we only started doing that here because it was doing so well. Now, I understand how our general fund's doing as well, but I think when we're in a position now, when we're talking about these other things, that could be a broader conversation as well. Before we say we're gonna balance this food service budget balance that does not have to be balanced on its own accord off of the backs of our families by raising prices. Because there's no requirement that it be solvent on its own accord. And we could get, Ms. Stoikoy could pull us that information on what other districts do, because this is not what they're doing, and they're not running their salary and benefits or their washing machine purchases and oven purchases through their food service account. They're buying food and that's about it.
It varies from district to district. Most of them are not functioning in a positive cash balance, but, that is typically being supplemented then by their general fund, which is a separate caveat to all this.
True.
Dependent on what our, general fund is doing, and we know where it's at right now. There are districts that outsource their whole food service, and so it's just a purchase service for them. So they don't have the staff internally, kind of like how we did with the preschool. There are districts that don't take, like he said, anything out but the food costs. And then there are some that, include everything like we do as well.
I think just, if I'm correct, Mr. Gomez, in what you're stating, and I think we're sort of saying the same thing on some level, and then a couple things not, but basically with the communication to the community and our families of why we're wanting to see a projection of numbers of why, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree that our prices are very, very low.
Right.
So I think I think there's a justification to do something. I think the argument is, what is that thing?
Yeah, I don't think there's any disagreement that we need, that we probably need to increase prices. It's just the justification of how much we need to
Right.
increase.
I mean, we can look, like you said, if nothing changes, which we
Right.
know not to be the case, because we do know, we do know we have a large insurance increase, we also have salary increases next year. And the price of food itself is kind of, we're locked into certain things, through, consortiums, but, not everything, and so that could fluctuate, but if we said the same, we could look at the number of meals and just put that price to it and see, assuming the exact same free and reduced, exact same paid. The only difficulty I would say is, as part of that revenue is not necessarily people buying meals. So if I put $100 on my kid's lunch account, that $100 is in the revenue up front. And so it's not necessarily by meal, so, that would be the only thing to keep in mind, that there's not a lot that are doing it, that day and
Right.
paying each day. They're paying their revenue up front and then going. Now, we could look at the per meal and just go from there, but
Do they typically do that though per month, like on auto replenish?
it varies.
Random.
It really varies. It depends on, some people don't use pay schools. Some people, I don't ever look at it unless I get a replenishment notice and I'm like, what the heck, that just happened, and then I find out they were buying ice cream all day. But I have it set up when it goes below a certain threshold, it
Just
replenishes
goes
an automatic amount, no matter when it is, and, that some people wanna do it manually. That, they'll get an alert when it's low, or they'll get an alert when it's whatever, and then they go in and they determine how much they can or want to pay at that time. So it's really across,
Some people still send it into the school.
correct.
Yeah.
I mean, we still have cash deposits every day from the lunchroom, every building. They're not huge, but we do still have, we have both, so. And even then, some of them are bringing in $50 or $100. They're not paying by the meal when they're doing it. So, that's just kind of another little
Yeah.
wrinkle. Variable.
So I think to end, what we're hearing is maybe do two scenarios, or like, I don't know if everyone's in agreement of Mr. Gomez's suggestion of if we can do 335 and keep the high school where it's at and increase middle school to 335, if that's something that would be agreeable to everyone to do it that way. If we maybe did that proposed, and then the rest of them as proposed on the bottom line, and then,
I'd like to look at something different for elementary school. I don't want to make a different proposal that doesn't exist. So I was okay with saying something for middle school because the numbers already existed. I don't want to come up with a number on my own for elementary school, but I think that's a lot in total for elementary school.
so are we asking then to send a new proposal after we look at what logistically
I-
we really feel
I would
needs
agree that-
these to
I'm
be
sorry.
done?
I'm sorry. Too, because going from 120 to $1.50 and 250 to 275, I don't know, that's a big jump. And I would think for breakfast, we could just keep $1.95 and raise the middle up to $1.95. to equal the high school and maybe go to, 130 or 40, something like, I don't know. But something a little, 275, you're going up quite a bit on the elementary. I do agree with that.
The combination.
Yeah.
Is a lot.
Yeah.
I think
So-
maybe it'd be interesting, because
I
I'm
don't
not trying to sell one way or another, but if it's not much of a difference of an increase, I don't know that it's gonna do much for your budget, Mr. Bailey. I think there has to be maybe some happy medium, and maybe we
Okay.
could crunch some numbers for you and
Sure.
what that would look like, maybe a couple different ways after what we heard from you this evening, just to see what it generates, because if at the end of this we generate $5,000, I gotta be honest, I'm not in control of your budget, but I'm gonna probably guess that's not gonna help a lot. But I don't know that until we crunch the numbers. I don't know what your proposals tonight would mean, except for the ones that you ran. Because we're not asking you to vote tonight anyway. I think
I
we're just
know.
trying to have a
Right.
discussion and gather some feedback, and then maybe come back to you with a couple different proposals, so you can see what that would net us.
Yeah, I think that would help.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Thank you very much, Chuck Bailey, for being here.
Well, appreciate it.
Yep.
Brings us to Treasurer CFO's comments.
I don't have anything, we're just wrapping up. This is kind of a little bit of a crazy time, for us, and wrapping up the fiscal year here at the end of the month, so you'll see all that. Next meeting, I did, just kind of want to, point out a couple things that are happening, legislatively, that are, concerning. Obviously, the Senate released their version of the budget, and while it, looks better for us, I always say that's relative based on how bad it looked in the beginning proposed. So I guess there's kind of a win there, but not a lot. There are a lot of caveats in there still that take away local control. And then most recently, they have introduced a new sweeping tax reform, property tax, which kind of combines like all these different ones that are out here. And one of the biggest things of that is that it would take away inside millage, which for us is, as you know, the only place where we see any kind of growth. It's 4.9 mils. For us last year, it was about $5.5 million, with no replacement. So we would just lose $5.5 million every year. So over the course of a forecast, we're talking $25 million. There would be no more emergency or substitute levies, which would really hinder a lot of our options as well. And it would allow, again, it's similar to some of the things that were in the House and the Senate version, to allow county budget commissions to determine, even if the community has voted for a levy and said yes and done all that and approved it, to decide that we don't need it based on whatever number of criteria they determine. And again, that really totally erodes local control within the districts. It would be really, really devastating to public schools, and I think that's kind of the point.
I
If I'm
agree.
being honest.
I agree. Totally.
At this point is, to further their private school, voucher and this, and that's better than this. But there's a lot of concerning things, so please, that will be the focus. The property tax reform kind of is the focus of my article in Roar. So to see some more information, we'll be going out to taxpayers. I urge you to get involved. It's, they're titling this as like, oh, all this property tax relief for you, but it's just gonna cause us to go to the ballot more. It's not, is really what it is at the end of the day. It might be up front it seemed like that and on its face, but it's really not, because we still need that revenue, and that, right now, they're proposing taking that away and not replacing it whatsoever. So most districts in that point would have to then go out and put on a levy to replace that money. So it's kind of, seems really, like it's not counteractive there that we're doing that, but, you know, they're politicians, and that's, you know, they want to say they did, you know, property tax reform and gave everybody a great, you know, relief and all this stuff, but, it would take away over $1.5 billion from public schools in Ohio, which is
Ridiculous.
insanity. And there's many other things in there, but it's going to be very, as I mentioned in my forecast, it's going to be very confusing to taxpayers if we're constantly flipping
Yeah.
around with, do you need it, do you not need it, we can amend how much, or take it, it's going to make it just very messy, if something like that goes through. And it's really gonna hurt, our ability to forecast, because we're never gonna know whether anything could be reduced. I mean, it's gonna hurt us anyway to take away that inside millage, but it's really gonna hurt to not know if at any time the county budget commission could decide.
Our County Budget Commission said they're not doing that, so.
Yeah, and most of them are against this because it's more
But you
work for
don't
them
know,
as
right?
well, and it's
No,
more,
Absolutely.
they're elected officials as well, and, the more confusing is not great for them either. But it would still be, there have been issues in other counties with, the recent valuations and appraisals, where certain counties have given school districts a hard time about their levies and whether they should, you know, be collecting all of that and this, that, and the other. So it does happen, and just kind of depends on, who may be in charge at any given moment.
Can I
So-
talk about 335 for a second? The state representative who represents Cuyahoga Falls is the primary co-sponsor of House Bill 335, which eliminates inside millage, which would be that cut of $5.5 million for our school district, which is very unfortunate. But not only does he eliminate that $5.5 million because he wants to take credit for lowering your property tax bill, that bill encourages school districts to then raise your sales tax by 1% as an alternative. And in his press conference announcing the bill, he encouraged us, school districts, to put a 1% income tax on the ballot as an alternative as well. So what frustrates me personally the most, and Ms. Stoiko and I talked about this as well, is that it's not really tax reform if at the same time he proposes the bill to lower your property taxes, he's encouraging you to go find other ways to substitute those taxes that are going to, in the end up costing you even more money. So that's deeply frustrating. And additionally, if inside millage is eliminated, it will cost Summit County, the county of Summit, $40 million. And Executive Shapiro went down to Columbus today to testify on House Bill 309 and House Bill 335 that you just spoke about, and was very clear with Representative Romer, who's from Summit County, that means we'll close wings of the jail, we'll lay off prosecutors, which means not only will those people not be in jail while their case is going through, their case is going to take longer to go through, which means our communities will be less safe. That's what these things are going to do. It's going to cripple governments. And in Summit County, we cannot raise the sales tax unless it's voted on by the residents, and every time it's been on the ballot, they've voted no.
Just my last plea, and it's in there, is to reach out to your representatives, your senators, and, you know, I think there are other bills at this time that, do not decimate public schools and do give some reform. You know, it's not that we're against, or I'm against the, you know, property tax reform or something, but you have to have you can't just say we're getting rid of it with no counter plan on.
Right.
You have to have a plan.
You have to have a plan, and
Oh,
so.
they have a plan. They have a plan.
Well, yeah,
Eliminate
that's what I
public
said,
schools,
that's the
period.
point, that's why there is no
That's why
plan.
it matters who you vote
But,
for.
there are other ones. Senate Bill 22, provides some tax relief without harming schools. So there are some alternative solutions, but definitely reach out and tell them, that you oppose this House Bill 335 because it would be catastrophic.
Thank you, Mr. Brings us to item F, Superintendent CEO's business. Dr. Sawakar.
Thank you, Ms. Coco. It is recommended that the Board of Education approves all items as listed in the superintendent's consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Number of items this evening, those related to personnel. We have some transfers that you'll see there. These are kind of customary. We have a soccer coach for your consideration this evening. Retirements, we have 3, in which I'd like to just point out that we have Miss Tracy Early, who is Principal at Roberts. She will be retiring. Sad to see her go and wish her well as Lori Schaefer. She actually put in her retirement, but it's for the end of this next year, and she's at our Welcome Center at the high school, so thank you to her as well. And Diana Gerber, our secretary at Silver Lake, and appreciate, it's always nice to see her when I come into the building. She's always so kind and always remembers to ask me about my daughters, and we have a very nice chit chat while I'm there, so wish her well. We have a job description for the secretary/paraprofessional position at the preschool. Again, for your consideration, it's a new position. We have a revised contract. There was an error in the previous calculation for that contract, so we're just providing to you the revised contract. We also have the ESC through Neonet for our science professional development. You got to see Bill Glavin present last time, so he will be working with us on the science for our teachers for the new curriculum. We have Panorama renewal. There's actually a slight decrease in there because we're making a few adjustments to that, but we'll still get the similar services and the survey. We have Akron's nursing. That's for the extended school year as well as the nurses for the district. We finally were able to reach an agreement there. Asia Inc. is there for Silver Lake again, and Shanae. We are not expanding it this year as we thought we might be able to, but we are not able to do that. We have a 612 science adoption that you saw last board meeting that was presented. I had an opportunity, I saw some parents reviewing it in Ms. Dudon's office. I was so excited that I had to stop in and thank the parent. I said, in my 30 years, I don't know how many parents I've seen review curriculum, but it's less than this on one hand. And she was so pleasant to speak to, and she really enjoyed the curriculum and got to look at it. Oh, cool, yeah, great. And then Sendero, well, actually, I'm gonna turn it over to Ms. Zeman, but I wanna make one comment for your information. You'll see several special education agreements coming through, and we have a number of students with disabilities, and we certainly want to and enjoy being able to provide services for those students that are in need. And what I'm not sure everyone understands is the cost associated in doing so. And so what you're going to see in the next few contracts there, they are going to total over $1 million, actually quite over $1 million, for our students that need a lot of additional services in the form of OT, PT, speech, some students that are unable to come to our schools because of their severe disabilities, so they go to other placements. But there are a number of contracts for your consideration. I just want to point out, because it is such a large expenditure, I just want you to see our investment in our students with disabilities, and we're happy to do so. I think what we would appreciate is receiving more funding from our federal and state governments to help to offset some of these costs, because there are loopholes that some of the agencies are using and which are requiring us to provide more services, which means we have to hire more personnel on top of paying them perhaps over $100,000 for a child's services. So it's becoming problematic. It always has been, but I think it's becoming more problematic from a financial standpoint. We're doing the best we can, and we will continue to provide those services, but what would be helpful is if we could have some more help from our state and federal. But Ms. Seaman, if you want to add anything to that.
I mean, it seems that we experience a try to keep on top of that so that we're definitely providing them with their least restrictive environment. But we do receive a lot of students that come in already district placed. But we have had some students that we have also needed to initiate that for, because they just needed that more intense service. I'm not sure if you want me to go through
I think just that
contracts, but that's
we have some
really the
increases
gist.
though in cost, right? For OT and PT, there's some increased costs.
Yeah, let me get to the OT&PT first.
OT was a $15,000 increase, and the PTs, there's some hourly wage increases there.
Yep. Yeah, so it's going from like, for PT, it's $73.85 an hour to $76.07 an hour, and that's for the physical therapist. The physical therapist assistants are a little bit less, but it's $59.64 an hour to $61.43 an hour. So there are some increases there. Sendero, which provides our occupational therapy services, was an increase of about $15,000, $50,450 for the year next year. So we always meet with them, go over our rosters and our projections for next year, so that they have a pretty clear idea of our students that'll be continuing with OT for next year. And then we have LLA, which this year we had a long-term sub position with LLA. We're trying to see if we can fill that in a different way this year, so we're still working on that. But we do contract with them for all of our district place students, as well as for ESY, and then any students that are on home instructions, they go into the homes and work with a couple of students. So those have increased from 80 to 81.93 an hour, so $1.93 an hour.
Thank you. I was going to say, I appreciate all the work that this district does to provide for our students with disabilities and help them succeed in our district. And, you know, obviously the theme for tonight could be funding. We need funding, I mean, honestly, and we're going to have a levy discussion later on too. So, you know, at the state and federal level, but we do appreciate everything that you do, and I'm proud of our district and how we provide for our students. So.
And we do, and I think it's only like, is it like 27-28% that we get from the federal for special ed kids? It's low.
Yes.
It's very low. I do know that, so.
Any comments or questions?
I was pointing out in the 612 science curriculum, it's our first curriculum that we are renewing on a 6-year cycle as part of the emergency levy cycle, so it's important to point that out. It's our first one that we get to renew, so it's very exciting.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Boyd, please call the roll.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Thank you. That brings us to item G, Superintendent CEO's business. Dr. Selico.
Thank you, Ms. Coco. As we mentioned earlier, the ROAR, Ms. Stoichkov mentioned, we read her article today, and will be included in there, and I recently wrote mine, so we'll have a summer edition going out probably June?
It'll be
May.
mid-July.
Mid-July. So, looking forward to that. We have a number of things coming up, but we just started summer school, and for our ESY started extended school year, so I'm gonna try to get there tomorrow, because I think it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays. Going to try to squeeze that in, a visit to them. We have been planning and will continue to plan for our preschool transition. We've been making some great ground there, as well as our 6 through 12 move, so lots of meetings around that. We decided today, we were really proud that we're in a good spot, because we were trying to think of what we need to work on next, but we're like caught up and in good shape, so we're happy about that. We also will, as we know, we've been working on, I'll talk about this later, so I won't mention it, but certainly I've been working with the team on, perhaps closing an elementary school, as well as selling schools. So I've been playing Realtor this week. You'll be happy to know that. I've been working on my real estate skills. And then and just for clarification, that's the high school in Roberts right now, just so people know. We have Juneteenth coming up next week in honor, so that will be actually, I think, Thursday, I think it's Juneteenth. And I will be on vacation next week, I'll be out. And just a quick update personally, I'm not sure where this is going to go yet. I'm still working, trying to get a second opinion, but looks like the revision surgery turns out not to be such a revision surgery, and it's more of like a full-blown, what I just went through on the back. So we'll see what that means if I'll be out a few more weeks. And it's looking that way, but I will know for sure soon. So I'm trying to push for the month of July, so I don't have to, it's probably the best and only time I can really feel comfortable about doing it. So I'm not, as you can imagine, not happy to have received that news, so, but we'll see. So we'll end on that happy note, but then, everyone's enjoying their summer so far. Thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to item H, board business. Number 1 is discussion on levy. And Ms. Stokewood, if you would join in this discussion and give us a little.
So we have, okay, let me go back. So if you recall, I think maybe 3 years ago, there were 4 levies that we were in a pretty repetitive cycle on, that they were up every year. I think we got like a year break, and then we started all over again, which can be, give people on both sides of the aisle, both the district and the community, some fatigue. And so we had made the plan to move most of these, if not all of them, have been around and renewed successfully for many, many, many years. And so we made the decision to attempt to make those continuing so that we could get off this levy cycle. And we have been successful with the first 3. So this is the final one. It is the 9.97 mil, which was originally passed in 1991. So I think that's at least 6 times that it's been renewed because they're in 5 years. And so this would be the last one we put up. The earliest it could be put up is November, but it has 25, but it has to be passed by November of 26. Typically in the past, we have put these on in that November, which gives us the option to, if for whatever reason it fails, we can look at May or the following November. May is going to potentially would cost us a little more because depending on what is on the ballot or what's not, whereas in a general election, it's typically not as expensive, and that's part of the reason, we've done that in the past. And then after that, we would only have 2 levies. If that were successful, we would have 2 levies that remain to be renewed. One is the emergency levy because it cannot be continuing. And the other was part of the bond issue. It was for operating mills. It was for 10 years, so that was passed in 2019. So we've got till 2029 out there. And then there's a couple different options because that was kind of a special, because it was a combination. That's how it was allowed to be 10 years. And so there's some options in what we can do with that one, but that's a little further off. So we would have to do the 2 resolutions, which we would typically do in June and July, and it would have to be, if we were going to go forward in November, submitted to the Board of Elections by early August in order to get on that. The first resolution just allows us to have the county auditor do their calculation of everything, and then once that comes back, then the final resolution to accept that and move forward. So it is exactly similar to all the other ones that we've done.
Does anyone have any thoughts or concerns about putting it, concerns, pros, cons, or anything to putting it on in November? I know that's
I mean-
typically what we've done, so that there is time for us in case it were to not pass. I know that I'm fine
It's
with
the,
doing
I
it
mean,
that
seems
way.
like the most logical.
And I also want to say that I'm proud of us as a board for getting out of the levy cycle on most of these.
So,
Makes a big difference
Yes.
for everybody.
And
Yeah.
as someone who was previously on the levy committee, to not have to put signs in yards every time it's an election is great. So, for everyone, for the district and for our community, I'm glad that we're getting out of that cycle.
I think the risk of putting it on in November is that you don't know what the turnout's gonna be, because it's a very unusual election in the city, because the mayor and all the council people are unopposed.
Unopposed,
So
yeah.
we don't really know what the turnout's going to be and how that could impact our chances.
Yeah.
And then in the village, it's a district council year, so it's districts A, B, C, and D are up. And their filing deadline's not till August, so we don't know if there'll be excitement there or not. So it's a little bit riskier because you don't know who's gonna come out to vote and how that's going to impact. If it was more normal and we could expect a usual turnout, we know that usually we do generally pretty good. But not knowing how this is going to impact or depress possible turnout, I think we need to think about that a little bit too.
Typically, over the state, November levies are a little more successful than May levies, just due to the nature of what people might be out for, in May or March, whenever it may be in that year. I think, and then there's also, as I said, do you wanna put it on in May? It may be a little more expensive, just depending. However, the philosophy or plan had been in the past too, is that if either one of those were to fail by that next November, we would only be putting it up for a 5-year period. Because we have to pass it in order to keep that money. This is one of those ones, again, just like the last one, that locks in that rollback. And so that it is always paid by the state and not by the taxpayer. And it's an important reminder. But really, again, like I said, so your two options for continuing that would be November or May. I personally would recommend leaning towards November, just because historically those are a little bit more successful. And if you still wanted to try again, you could in May for continuing without having to go straight to the 5 years, but
I think so. Try in November.
Yeah. That's what I would, I would lean towards November as well.
do you
So
want
we-
me to have that first resolution drawn up then?
And that would be on the next,
The
the
25th,
last meeting in June.
And then the second one would be July. That's correct.
Leave the 25th.
Dr. Slocum, do you have any concerns about our lack of support in terms of a levy committee?
No, well, yes. I had to assemble my team together to say, like, I think we're gonna be pitching in a little bit more than we have in the past. The golf outing did fall apart, and we'll try to regain rethink what we'll do this fall for a fundraiser, but The only thing that some hesitation is that I wasn't sure we were going up, so I will have to tell our levy chair that we are going to go up for one, because I think he was under the impression that we might not be going up in November, so I just have to, get together with them, and, the challenges around having to communicate after hours and all that fun stuff as superintendent. And so we've been meeting after hours, like at the library, and so we'll reassemble if that's the direction the board chooses to go in.
Is everyone agreeable for putting that on for the first meeting, or the last meeting in June?
No, but I think it's, do we have enough votes?
Resolution, yeah.
Okay, that brings us to item 2, discussion of elementary school closing, and I'll turn it over to you, Dr. Sellercoat.
Okay, thank you. So there are 2 items here that kind of go hand in hand, the GPD group. So just as a recap, last meeting, we had talked about the possibility of getting GPD, it's an architectural firm, to come in and do an outside, an independent evaluation of our schools. And they were able to come together with a quote, which is is $7,000 as a base cost, but we know that there'll be additional costs should they come in and do additional meetings, seeking, do additional information, et cetera. I'll come back to that, I think, but, well, actually, I'll talk about that now. So, just to finish that thought with the GPD, essentially what the conversation was, and it's listed in here, that they, once again, said that we have a lot of information that we probably would just be turning over to them. It doesn't sound like there would be a lot of additional information. They would be gauging their work off of what we've done. And so you have some of that. I have been working a little bit more on some other ideas and some other data that I've not shared with anyone. It's just been with me at the moment, but perhaps could be something that we could share at a later date. And depending on what you decide with GPD, I'm not completely convinced that spending the money is the best investment, when I think what they're going to do for us is pretty much what we already have after further discussion with them. I think I went and visited all the schools again and peeked my head in and, kind of wanted to get some more accurate numbers and really feel a little bit more confident in some of the information that we have to share. The other thing I would point out is that we have been thinking a lot about 6 elementaries. We've been talking about the 6 that are in existence, and I think we're missing another opportunity, another building that's out there, which is Cheney. And so what I'd like to ask the board to consider is not closing an elementary of the 6 that we have now it's semantics, okay? So not closing an elementary school, but repurposing one of our elementary schools. Still relocating the children that are in the school, but I'm not talking about closing. It would still remain open, whatever building that would be. But I would ask you to consider relocating our students that attend Cheney. That's our preschoolers and our alternative school. I have spoken with the director there, and he has an interest in relocating, should that be something that you consider. So there's some revenue there that we would generate, and our students would be able to go into what I would think would be a nicer building. The only part that I would ask you to consider, to keep in mind, is that because we have a number of students with disabilities in the preschool program, that the building would have to be ADA accessible, or at least, much more mobile for our students with disabilities. So that would be the one factor that I would need to ask that you consider in your decision making. But I really do think, for whatever reason, I haven't given a lot of thought to Cheney, but in visiting there, it kind of dawned on me that, wow, we have an opportunity to put our students into a different, nicer space, most likely in whatever building we would choose. So those are my most recent thoughts.
If I could, so reading through the lines, we have 2 buildings that I know of that elementary-wise that are not ADA accessible. So if we explore this, we would not then have those 2 on the table as possibilities in this scenario. Is that correct?
In my opinion,
In this scenario
suggest-
specifically, I'm not saying
Yeah.
in other scenarios, I'm just
No,
saying
I
in
would
this
agree that it
scenario.
would have to be a building that is conducive to these students, and there are a couple that I would personally think would not be good
Yeah.
choices. if
I
you
mean,
look
there's
at it.
two that are absolutely not ADA accessible.
That's correct,
Yeah.
yes.
So when you say the relocating of the preschoolers to the building that we would be relocating our elementary students out of,
Yes.
and then would the, Schnee, would they be relocating to that building as well? Is that what you're saying? Or
They would
just
relocate
go-
to the, whatever building we would be closing, but again, I'm calling it repurposing. So I'm just, for sake of argument, call it Price, Ms. Linda's here tonight. Should that be Price Elementary, for example, that the Price students would go to a different school, and then the students that attend Shanae, our preschoolers and alternate, would then go to Price, would
So they
be
would
relocated
they
to
would
Price.
all go to that, okay.
Yes.
So in that scenario, then it would leave Schnee
To sell.
to South.
That would be my recommendation, and
And then we would still benefit from the
So,
finances of selling a building and the finances of closing
yes.
yes.
a building, even though we're calling it repurposing, but still those financial benefits, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
you could use the money, the sale from Sinead to put into the, whatever we might have to do to another building.
And we would not be losing the revenue that we're currently gaining from Schnee.
Right, there's still an interest to
Because
continue
they
our
would
partnership.
still be continuing.
And the other win-win, a little bit, to go a little bit more, we're talking right now about shared services with Sinead, and so we might even have a way to have another revenue stream, a little bit more with nursing and secretary support.
It would also eliminate the kind of hesitance, I think, of if it's one of the 4 buildings that we just put air conditioning in,
Yes.
instead of,
Yeah.
closing one of those, it would still be used, and we
Being
would
used by
just be
Right.
saying, okay, we invested this money in this, and now
Right.
we're not doing anything with it at all, so.
And I'm sure the preschool teachers would appreciate air conditioning,
Yes.
running around chasing preschoolers all
Yeah,
day.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So Schnee doesn't have air conditioning.
Oh,
Oh.
well, it does in parts, doesn't it? I thought.
Window
no.
units,
I think
say
the
window
office
units.
has, I think Mr.
yes,
Pallia's
some-
office
Just some
has.
window units
but-
that are-
yeah, okay, yeah.
This would also, eliminate, I think, a big part of our board discussion and us not being able to really foresee for our next discussion and getting this data was, not wanting to tie hands when it comes to the possible building of new elementaries in the future.
Right. And-
This would leave us still owning all of those properties.
Correct. And we know Sinead would not be a viable site, so
No.
Right.
that was the other factor that I was
Right.
trying to keep a building online that would be a potential site. We'll still have children in there, and if we needed to use it in the future, we own it still, so. But we know Sinead, there's not a use for that. And we could relocate the Black Tiger Family Center to another school, which would be fine. We're able to do that.
Yeah, I always said, let's sell Schnee because it's not used that much, it's not full. So I'm always, I don't want to sell Sill, that's for sure. I think everybody knows that. But I do like that idea. But I still think, Mr. Harris talked about last time, the maintenance on the buildings. When we are looking at, where to do this, is it gonna matter now, the maintenance, or would we need that report?
Yes, so part of, and I'm more than happy to present the information I've been gathering. I'm not completely done, I'm getting closer, but I can present that at maybe our June 25th meeting, because I know that's our next regular board meeting. I would be happy to do so and show you the data I've been looking at. There's lots of reports that we were able to muster, but I do think maintenance will come into play. I
Okay.
mean, we can't ignore that, because if we were to keep certain buildings open, there would be more of a cost for some, more so than others, but we would just have to be aware of that, and like I said, with the selling of Sinead, will generate, I would imagine, a few $100,000 at the least, and we can use that money to reinvest.
Okay.
Just an option, I was
No,
just kind of brainstorming, and it seems to
I just wanted
to
to,
work.
I know, that on my rubric, I didn't have that.
Right, yeah, that maintenance
And
upkeep
it-
cost,
so,
right.
I think I had pretty much everything, but I didn't have that. And that is something I'd like to know, especially if we don't do the GPD thing, so,
Yes.
okay. So,
Thank you, this has given us more things to think about.
Yeah.
Something very, give me lots of work, I'm gonna turn it around.
I have an additional question, because I know that, people use like that parking lot often in the evenings
Oh, for
to
the
access the
games.
fields there, so is this something that we'd wanna be in conversation with the city about? And also, they were gonna put that playground in, is that something we would wanna let the city know about?
So I did reach out,
Okay.
and just in preparation to try to cover all my bases, I told you, real estate, it's my next career. I did, have some conversations with some potential ideas, and I do think there could be some interest, or, again, as I'm talking to all these different folks about properties, and the playground, I did speak with, Sarah Klein about it, just to say, hey, I'm gonna be proposing this to the board. I don't know whether or not they're going to consider it, but if they do, there's a chance that, please put a timeout on that. I wouldn't want you to invest in that, and she's fine with that. They haven't she wasn't sure if they had ordered it. Even if they did, they could relocate it elsewhere. So that wasn't a huge concern, but I will say this, if we are going to consider this option, there were a number of things that we were looking at to make Shanae look better, but we would not invest that money. There is work to be done. That roof alone, if you all
Yeah.
have probably seen it, if you haven't, it does this. Whoop, whoop.
Yeah.
Terrible design, sorry if architect whoever did it, but it is almost impossible to repair, and we've put so much money into it. The preschool wing is in decent condition, the other wings not so much, and certainly not that area. So there would be room to, we'd have to invest some money if that were to stay online for the future years. But I do think, Mr. Gomez, to your question, I think we'd be okay in those areas.
So where do we go from here next in terms of exploring this idea and identifying options?
Well, my suggestion would be, we do have this GPD contract on there. I feel more confident after doing a lot more research and talking with different people, and even talking with GPD themselves, and knowing that they're pretty much gonna take everything I've gathered, and I don't take credit solely, certainly people have helped me gather this information, but what I have in my possession to give to them. I think that I feel comfortable being able to present to you in 2 weeks, I think, a pretty thorough report and recommendations of ideas for you. But that's your choice.
So either way, if we were to decide on GPD, then they would be gathering data for us, or if we don't vote on GPD and decide that's not necessary, then you would be presenting us. So either way, our goal would be in the last meeting in June.
Provided I'm not, laid up in a hospital bed. Yes, that's my goal.
We can zoom you in.
Yeah, it's a pretty sight. Let me tell you, no one wants to see that.
Can you get your camera?
Oh, I would spare you all that. But yes, that would be so it's either GPD, and they're able to present on the 25th, I believe. And I gave them that date. That would be our next meeting. So whether it's them or me, you can have a presentation if that would be your desire for it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we go on to our service proposal for GPD, we do have a community member, Ms. Terry Mackey, if you would like to come up and.
I threw a monkey around here with a statement, huh? I tend to do that to people. I'm
Do I
sorry,
have to do
Terry.
that? You guys?
Yes.
Yes,
to go to the
please
mic.
go to the
Yes.
microphone and state your name and
Threw a
your
wrench at you,
address,
huh?
and
Yeah.
limit to 3 minutes, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Terry Mackey, 1020 Cooper Drive, Cuyahoga Falls. I graduated from here, left town, came back 4 years ago to take care of my mom, but I've been a sub in the district for the last 3 or 4 years. I'm familiar with all of the buildings, I'm familiar with all the buildings, but particularly the elementary. And as I listen to you guys all talk and be thoughtful about everything with your selection, I mean, I know you guys all know it's gonna be hard. And no matter what you do, there are gonna be people who are unhappy. And I still, when I hit here, I started hearing about Newberry. And it wasn't just from teachers, it was from citizens too. So it's a big deal, closing one of the schools. But as I heard you guys all talking and your rubrics and your 4 items and stuff like that, what I didn't hear, and I'm not saying you aren't considering it, but what I didn't hear was consideration of building aesthetics and function through the children's eyes. Some of those buildings are less comfortable than other buildings are, in all sorts of different ways. And then there's the idea of there'll be more students in each classroom, and that's an adjustment for the kids. Teacher teams will be rearranged, that's a big change. So there's gonna be a whole bunch of changes it is when anything happens. But my big concern was what it's like through the kids' eyes and what the buildings are like for the kids. And that if you have to choose a building, because now maybe you don't, I've never seen Schnee. It was built when I went to school here, but I've never seen it. But anyhow, just how comfortable the spaces are for the kids. And the ideas too of like how you get kids rearranged into the buildings. Like the idea of music and art on a card or anything like that, you completely eliminate the teaching tools that go in the classroom for those subjects. And you eliminate the teacher's ability to do her planning time with her records and her materials in her classroom. So that to me was also a concern, because I saw that happen in my district I was at Wadsworth for 28 years, and I saw that early on in my district and saw how it affected things. So that's basically, most of it was just this idea of what the buildings, how comfortable the buildings are. I was over, a friend of mine, had her classroom moved last year because of accessibility issues in one of the buildings. So there's just so many, and like I said, you guys sounded very thoughtful to me. That's it. I'm sure 3 minutes are up.
Yes, just now.
did.
I didn't want to interrupt your last thought. Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
Yes.
Move on. I just, in case, I don't want to be rude, in case you didn't see my email earlier, it's my youngest 10th
Yeah.
birthday, and I promised her I'd be home at a certain, not at midnight, since I've been gone all day, so I'm going to leave. I would ask that whoever finishes the minutes not give them to
I know.
We will take care of
They
it.
will not make it to me. Any one of these individuals is interested. This one, not so much. First time she failed.
Just a quick question, and
Gotcha.
happy birthday to your child. Are you available the meeting in July? Or are you?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
All right, just for
Yep.
later discussion. Just to make sure.
Thank
Awesome,
you.
thank you.
I've been picked on 2 board meetings in a row, just for the record.
You brought it on your
One
spot?
time I lost her notes for everyone to
The
sign.
only time.
No, that's not true. You've given them to me a few times.
No, I wouldn't give them to you if you were having to give them
Okay,
to me.
order.
Well, I don't know, Miss White, you were the one who picked on me last time. I said you want order.
As much as I did on myself.
Hey, both things are true. I can't argue.
That brings us to item 3, service proposal, GPD. It is recommended that the Board of Education approves the service proposal to allow GBT Group to provide services for the Cuyahoga Falls City School District.
Wait a minute. I'm all out of order here. So moved, I guess. I'll go with that. There I, okay. Give a second.
Oh, second?
Discussion on the GPD contract?
I move to place this item on the table.
Table it. Okay. I'll second.
Table is a discussable motion.
Need to vote on the table?
No, it's a discussable motion if you want to discuss it.
Would you like to discuss, any discussion with moving in, putting it on the table?
Will you table as a discussion for later on in the meeting?
No, if we
For
place
the
it on the
meeting.
table, and since I didn't put it for a specific time, it would be indefinitely.
Yeah, just.
So it basically
Gone.
just kills it.
Mhm.
It's more polite than voting it down.
Yeah, it is.
Voting it down would mean that we're like unhappy with it.
Right. yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Which we're not.
Right.
Okay.
As my discussion
you.
would be, I don't have a problem with that. I'm good with, I feel like I'm satisfied that we've collected what we need right now as to continue this discussion on June 25th, specifically with Dr. Selico being able to give a presentation on what we have. So
I
that would
agree,
be my
yes.
discussion
I
with-
agree.
for the table.
I agree.
Great.
Okay, Mr. Gomez, can you call the roll, please?
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez, aye. Ms. White?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Item 4 is Memorandum of Understanding, Cuyahoga Falls Education Association. It is recommended that the Board of Education approves the Memorandum of Understanding between the Cuyahoga Falls Education Association and the Cuyahoga Falls City School District.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
There's several changes for those that are going to be teaching preschool, since we've never had preschool in-house before, and those folks will be covered by the Cuyahoga Falls Education Association, so to make those appropriate changes within their bargaining contract.
Correct. Because it is preschool and there's a lot of things that are very different that operate in preschool than a regular building, elementary, middle, high school, it was necessary to do this. Okay, Mr. Gomez, please call the roll.
Mr. Gomez, aye. Ms. White?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Ms. Coco?
Aye. That brings us to item 6, sponsorship rights agreement with Lambert. Oh, I'm sorry.
Another one.
I skipped ahead. Number 5, Memorandum of Understanding, Ohio Association of Public School Employees. It is recommended that the Board of Education approves the Memorandum of Understanding between the Ohio Association of Public School Employees and the Cuyahoga Falls City School District.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
This is in tandem with what you saw earlier, the job description, so just reflecting that in the contract, because there's not, that position doesn't exist, so we needed a wage and an agreement from OPSI.
This person will also be working at the preschool.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Gomez, please call the roll.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez? Aye.
Now, item 6, sponsorship rights agreement with Lambert Buick Corporation. It is recommended that the Board of Education approves the sponsorship rights agreement between Lambert Buick Corporation and the city, Cuyahoga Falls City School District.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, would you like to?
Yeah, sure. Some good news.
Share that news.
Yeah, again, been working on this, as you know, the naming rights is, I give credit to Christine's done a great job with the flip book. We've been getting the message out. I've been talking to many different people. We are able to land our first official, and it's a big one. Should the board vote yes. Lambert's Buick will be, have naming rights to our stadium, and it will be Lambert Stadium, should this get approved tonight, and it will be for $250,000 for 10 years. And I will be providing for you shortly an arch that was drawn by our architects to demonstrate, to illustrate, I should say, that their name to the field. But it's an exciting time. We have a couple more, fingers crossed, coming, not as big, but we are happy that we're of our generous donors. So hopefully you'll see a couple more coming in the next month or so.
And the arch would be designed so after that, when their 10 years were up, if we had another sponsor, that could be switched out to.
Yes, that's, I was very specific. We're going to start working with some masons, and Aaron Woodard is doing some legwork on that, but there's like a metal arch that would go across, and then I asked for the letters to be, that are on there, to be able to come off so we can replace it easily in 10 years.
I envision, I'm gonna say downtown Akron, kind of by, is it by Lock 3 that has the brick and then the over
I think so.
arch on top?
Yeah,
That's kind of what I
don't know if
envision.
it's
Is
Lock 3,
something
but
or
I
maybe it's by the rubber
envisioned
ducks, or
something, yeah.
it's right
Like
down
rubber
there
ducks, yes.
somewhere.
They're
Yeah,
pretty
I think I
common,
know what you're talking
and
about.
they're just expensive, and so we need something anyway. The way our stadium is situated, there's not a good place to put the name of the field anywhere, because it's built into the school.
It's not the field, the stadium.
I'm sorry, what did I say, field?
Yeah.
Stadium, thank you. Actually, I originally said Lambert Field, and he was all on there, like, oh, no, wait, it's even better, you're the stadium. But there's nowhere to really put it, so many folks, when you're coming off 13th Street, when I show you the illustration, it's beautiful. We'll have a fence already around the stadium, so then we'll have 2 columns that'll be built into the fencing, and then we'll have a gate that will be, and then you'll have the arch, and it'll be beautiful. So, but it's costly, but we will use, some of the proceeds certainly won't be $250,000, but we'll use a portion of that to cover the cost of the arch. And we also have some fundraising ideas still to come on that I think will help offset the cost.
Bricks.
Brick, actually, it might end up being a plaque, but I started on the brick path, and then I was told that's too hard to do. I don't have to do the work, so I'll take their word for it. It's easy for me to give ideas. But yes, perhaps we can do some things on the arch. Yep. So, yeah, very excited.
Yeah.
Jason, who's from Lambert, has been great to work with, very nice man, and we're both excited. We're gonna do a press release. We thought we'd get some pictures of them at the field, and, yeah. That's Christine's part.
Any more discussion?
Great.
Right, Mr. Gomez, call the roll, please.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez? Aye. Ms. White?
Aye.
That's big news.
It is big news, it's exciting news.
Yeah.
Item 7 is service agreement, HEPA Environmental Services and Levy Enterprises. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the agreements between HEPA Environmental Services and Levy Enterprises and the Cuyahoga Falls School District.
So moved.
Same.
Discussion?
Yeah, this is related to the abatement work for the removal of the boiler at Preston and Price. So they ran into some, as can happen with abatements and asbestos, et cetera. So it would hold up, it's kind of put the project on hold momentarily until we can approve this, but it's something we have to do to move along with the project.
So this is just them removing it and we're still replacing the boilers ourselves?
I believe that's,
Okay.
well,
This is
what do you mean
just-
by ourselves?
I mean, they're not doing it, I'm sorry, that's not
We're
part of
not
this.
doing the boilers,
That's
it's a
not,
company.
I mean, that's not
Yeah.
part of this contract.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
This is just for the
Just
for-
abatement.
yeah.
Right.
I mean, I'm not doing it myself.
Well, our guys aren't doing it.
I probably could do it. Not really.
I think most buildings in, well, not just in Cuyahoga Falls, that were built before a certain time period, unfortunately, have these issues. I know my basement does. Our contractor said just put carpet over it and don't ever tear up your floor. So
Yeah.
that was the solution.
Yeah.
Right? Anything else? Mr. Gomez, please call the roll.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez? Aye. Ms. White?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Brings us to item 8, adoption policy. It is recommended that the Board of Education adopts the following policies. Section E, support services, EBCA, behavioral threat assessment. Section
About policy.
Yeah. Someone's excited.
Section J, student, GD, student suspension, JGE, student expulsion, JN, student fees, fines, and charges.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? And Mr. Gomez went over all these last week, or last board meeting. Okay, Mr. Gomez, please call the roll.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez? Aye. Ms. White?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
That brings us to item 9, discussion of our final farewell tours. This is in conjunction with the opening of our 6 through 12 campus. We do have buildings that we have to say goodbye to. So,
Maybe I can start with the easier one. So there are 2 things that I've gotten some feedback on both of these things, but I felt it was so it's important enough that we have some discussion. I think we have maybe consensus on the first one, so there's, as you mentioned, Ms. Coco, there are the closings of the schools and the final tours for that. But we also have Clifford Stadium that has, come to light. And I would like to just share with you what our plan is for that. I felt like I got some good feedback there, but we certainly, I'm happy to answer questions or have more discussion. But what we were thinking in this last, if this works, so there's a caveat that the stadium has to be ready. And we're hopeful that it will be, but it will not be ready. We take possession in August of the stadium, but it will not be ready to be, for students to play at it because we don't own the building until November. And as I mentioned, things are built into the building, such as the press box, locker rooms, etc. So with that, we have to try to get some provisional temporary permits in order to be able to use the field. But we propose, if that all works, that we would hold an event on September 12th, which is the last, would be their last game in Clifford, and it's homecoming. So we are trying to do a kind of a creative play on like homecoming and a goodbye, I don't know what that would be yet. Christine will put it in AI and we'll come up with something fantastic, I'm sure. And then we would have our Tiger Tailgate that night event. So it's a big blowout. So we have Tiger Tailgate, the homecoming and pregame as usual. We were still able to do that. And then at halftime, we've requested from OHSAA that they would allow us to have a little bit longer halftime. So an additional 10 minutes, and in which time we could do whatever that might be, the proclamation to the stadium, whatever we would choose to do. And then we were just having some ideas of some things that we would do that evening, but we thought maybe we would just put it all one big happy evening, but that's September 12th, so then that would be their last game, and then we have a couple away games after that, the football team does anyway. Then they would play end of September in the new field.
Was Coach Barker from Cheer involved in this? Because she put up a post encouraging all former cheerleaders to come to the first home football game.
I had a conversation with her about
Okay.
that and questioned her wording because she wanted that flyer approved. And I said, I think this could cause some confusion, and never heard back.
Okay.
We did see that some coaches were putting some things out about the gym, about the stadium, and didn't
Yeah,
necessarily
there's
go
one
through the
about
proper.
basketball as well.
Yeah, they not necessarily vetted us through us because we're trying to control for those messages, so there's not that miscommunication, because we involve, I think Dustin was at the table, KJ was at the table. I think he had spoken with the coaches, so
And
I don't know about the
Coach Cass,
cheerleading.
too.
Okay. So, yeah, we're trying to control that messaging, but that would be what the idea would be, again, provided that we're able to get into the building, the stadium, for the September. What I also like, and what I've been pushing, because we talk so much about football and band, of course, but we also, if this works, we will have our soccer teams, both boys and girls, have an opportunity to play on the new field. Theirs goes right at the end to October, and then they might have playoff games, et cetera. So it'd be kind of neat to not just focus on football and band, but that our soccer players would have an opportunity as well.
Yeah.
They had to have their farewell a long while ago
Yeah, they did.
at Lakeborn.
They're playing at a nice field, but the parents that I've spoken to said, well, it's a beautiful field, you don't get, fans at Kent.
They also, parents have said that they don't always enjoy the drive to Kent.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
It's a
So
little bit of a hike.
that's, I think, the easier one, if the board's in agreement, I can.
Kind of lumping it together there.
I'm
Yeah.
fine with that too. The one other thing I think I had suggested was just that, whenever we do the high school farewell, I think it'd be nice if the, stadium was open as well on that date as well for people to, cause it's part of the high school. Yeah,
Oh, yes, okay.
Just
Yes.
open.
cause
so
it's
people
part of
should-
the high school
Sure, I
campus,
see what
so.
you mean. Mhm.
And what's the harm at that point? We're not using it
No, no,
again,
I thought you
so.
were thinking the new campus.
No.
Yes, okay. The next one that we were trying to, and the reason that I'm encouraging us to kind of lock in on some details is because we are getting questions now. People have been asking us, they've been asking Ms. Stewart, and even the mayor asked me the other day what we were planning on doing. So, we had originally proposed, we had some discussion about, well, first I think what we need to decide is, do you want it in the fall while children are still in the building, or do you want it after? Now, here's the problem with after. We have the abatement for BOE particularly, starts right away in January. That's a real
January
tight,
26th.
yeah, January
No,
26th.
that's
So
it.
that's a tight one.
Yeah.
And then, if we're gonna be selling the buildings, particularly Roberts, if that's gonna become available, soon after we close. So that would be one item for you to consider. And then the second would be, how many, we thought one for the middle school, one opportunity for folks, but then for the high school, maybe have a couple different dates, so people, because since it's, I don't know, I think it tends to draw a little bit more with alumni and et cetera. And then we had proposed originally October 18th is a Saturday, 9 to 1 for Bullock and Roberts and the high school, actually, all three of them, just be open pretty much the majority of the day. We can even make it longer, but people could visit them all in one day. And then one evening, we had October 14th from 6 to 8 would be the high school, that people could come as well. I think it's the same night as Foundation, which is why I think we chose that date. But that's just what we, throughout, our team felt that it would be nice while children are still there, because we see what happens to buildings when we vacate, and teachers, we worry about what's gonna be left and what the condition would look like, after people pack, are they gonna have stuff left behind? And I don't know that it would be very pleasing to see. It won't be at its best either, to be honest, in the fall, because we're gonna be preparing for the new move. We've already said to teachers, we're not expecting your rooms to be shiny, beautiful, all color, because we're gonna be moving and they have to pack their stuff. So that's what we came up with, happy to.
So the high school would be open 2 different dates, and Bullock and Roberts would be open just on October 18th then.
And that's what we're
Correct.
proposing. I mean, if the board, wants 2 dates. The only thing I would, again, just be sensitive to is we have people, staffs affected, and more
Yeah.
evenings and Saturdays and things like that for the team. I know that there was some concern raised on that end. And we also thought we could make it fun, like we talked about maybe food trucks and having our mascot buildings visiting, or in cheerleaders, or if we wanted to make it nice, or if we wanted to just keep it simple, we can do that too, but if we want to make it festive, we will make it happen. Because we have nothing else going on in the fall. Just kidding. So that's it.
Discussion?
I don't like the idea of the middle schools being on the same day. I think all of them should be different days, because there are gonna be people that wanna say goodbye to all three. There could be a mom that went to Bullock and their kid went to Roberts. So there could be families that need to go to both to get that last little bit of closure. And I think just separating them out is giving our community more of an opportunity to have that final moment that we know is very important in our community, that is extremely sentimental. So I think all of them should be on different days. Originally, I know all of them were on the same day, so I appreciate we started to separate that. I appreciate that, Dr. Selico. Want to thank you for what you did do. But I do think they should all be on different days, just to give the community the broadest opportunity to do their farewells. So that's one point that I have. The other thing, and I have had a lot of conversations with Dr. Selico about this, I think the tours, it's not a final farewell if you still have 2 months of opportunities to come into the building. It's not a final farewell if I came and said goodbye to my high school, and then I'm coming back for one more time, and then I'm coming back for the last holiday band concert, and I'm coming back for my kids' middle school band concert, and I'm coming back for this, and I'm coming back for that. That's not a final farewell, and that doesn't really give people closure, which is what our extremely sentimental community really wants in this process. And I think the benefit of having it after we've moved out, and I would say shortly thereafter we've moved out, is all the stuff that's left in the building, if people want it, we're not taking it. And that's the benefit. When we closed Sill, there was still stuff in there, and people could take it. And they did.
And they did.
People really appreciated that. And if somebody wants that chair for whatever,
It would have to be after the auction, that's the only thing I would say if we
Oh,
do that.
yeah.
Because we're having an auction, I don't know when that's gonna be, but just something to consider.
Yeah,
People took things out of Newberry.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
Exactly.
When we had Newberry open. right
Because
before.
they weren't
And there was hardly
things-
anything in there to take, but they found
Yeah.
it.
Because it was gonna get torn down otherwise.
Yeah.
I think actually Mrs. Schaefer took something out of Newberry.
Did you?
Yeah, she has a pencil
A
sharpener.
pencil sharpener.
And I know that. So I just think that gives people the opportunity to have their final farewell. And as someone on a personal level who's losing both their middle school and high school in this process, so I do feel a little bit affected by this, that would personally, I feel like I can advocate for these people because that would personally give me more closure. Because as a board member, I know I'm gonna be in these buildings a bajillion more times between October and December because there's so many more activities that happen. So I won't feel like I said goodbye. And so I think that's a better opportunity for our community. And that's why Dr. Selko and I, we talked and we said that we'd put it on the agenda because I had some disagreement, though we've had a lot of very good conversation that I've appreciated.
When, do we have any kind of prospective date of when we would be doing the the ribbon cutting over at the new campus?
After July 4th is when we're allowed to start having those conversations.
Oh, you're not allowed to have it till July
Yeah,
4th?
that's what Hannah has
Okay,
told
so
us,
we'll-
is after July 4th, they can start.
Okay.
What?
That's what Jeff Adams.
Why would they do?
It's a very specific date.
Yeah, we did, I mean, the grand opening would be in January.
After July 4th, you can talk about
After
it.
July 4th, we can start planning for a date.
Okay.
With
don't know.
them,
I'm just
because
saying
they'll
that
be,
I disagree with that, if we wanna set a date, we can set a date. I mean, we're the ones who are having the grand opening, but.
but they're probably coordinating and doing a lot with it.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
set
probably,
it
I would
all up,
assume.
basically.
So-
Oh, there's, okay.
Yeah, I've
Well, we
already had
can-
conversations with Ken.
Okay.
You can talk
I
about
was
it
just
tomorrow.
wondering, like, if we're trying to do final farewell tours here, if we had it, like, we would need to coordinate that as well, is my thought. is That would be
Yeah,
kind of
because
thrown in the mix.
Holiday.
The holiday throws a
drives
wrench in.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So the first day is it January 6th? Is that the Monday? What's the Monday? 4th?
5th.
5th is a Monday, January 5th?
Is a Monday.
So that's when we're gonna start, like, open houses. Teachers have planning days, those first couple days, Monday, Tuesday. Then we start Wednesday, Thursday, Friday will be middle school, high school, and there'll be their open houses as well. Is Tuesday a open house, I think, for high school?
We're probably just gonna do
Middle
it
school.
on the ribbon cutting on New Year's Day.
Oh
'Cause
my
it'd
God,
be-
can you imagine? Yeah.
It'd be the most convenient. What are people doing otherwise?
Sleeping in?
They'll make it early in the morning, I guess.
Yeah, just do it in the afternoon. Our families will come out because most of them will be off.
We could have fireworks.
Of course, hello. And glitter.
We think it's a bad idea, but it's not. It's a terrible idea. A lot of our families could come.
January 6th is middle school open house, and then the high school's on the 7th. Yeah. And students arrive
Right.
on the 6th.
But there's gonna be a
middle
lot more than the middle school and high school I mean, the whole community's gonna
Oh,
walk through that
Yeah.
building.
Yeah, I mean, the
So-
challenge, and, is the holiday time, like, if you do something in December, people are
Right.
so busy in December. Then you have the new year, and you have bad weather, I mean, it's not an ideal time of the year, we don't have control over that, but just trying to think about.
Because
our
we're not
challenges.
moving things in.
Yeah,
When are we moving, when would, I know that
We're
we're not
moving
in the,
over Christmas, over.
Right.
that's when the
Over the
teachers are
break.
moving, the staff are moving everything in, or
They'll be
everything?
able to get in earlier, because we anticipate getting the keys early, so we're gonna let people bring their personal items over. We have a lot of dates in the
Right.
beginning of December established, and then the movers themselves will be doing that as soon as winter break hits. All over winter
But the
break.
majority, like the furniture and all that is, for the most part, it's all new over there, that's all
Yeah,
already
right.
gonna be in
Right.
there and set up? Or that's
Yeah,
part of the?
Yeah, it'll have to be, yeah.
Okay.
I would imagine they'll be doing that in November,
I
you
would,
know,
yeah.
starting the furniture.
So when is the building going to be done? I thought it would be done November 1st.
November 20th, something
Oh.
like that, or 26th.
Well, at any rate,
But we do think it'll be before that, but that's
Okay.
the official when they have to give it to us.
I just thought we would do this as soon as it was done. We'd be cutting a ribbon.
Well,
I mean,
yeah, I mean, we could.
I know we won't have everything in there, but it would be more open to tours for the public to see, the planning committee.
I know we're kind of getting off
I don't
track of
know.
the Fair World Tours, but I guess
Yeah,
my
well,
just whole
I'm
point of
sorry.
putting it together
Yeah.
is that if we're doing them here, we would just want to make sure it wasn't, we can't have too much stuff all at once.
No.
And we know there's a lot going on at that time with the move into the 6 through 12 campus, so, and I know, like, if we did them once everyone was gone and we had the specific dates, I know, like, Newberry, there weren't really a lot of, it's not like there was a lot of staff or anything that was here, was there for Newberry. I know that we volunteered and were there.
I don't really care. I just thought as soon as it was done,
Right.
we'd be cutting that ribbon. I'm excited, I want it done.
Good, I
But-
didn't think about that.
That's okay. I mean, whenever we can is fine.
I'd like to raise another concern about having the tours while the buildings are still occupied. When we've had tours like at Newberry and Sill in the past, people just look at everything. And so when we talk about being a district that protects student privacy, people are gonna open every drawer that's openable. They're gonna look at everything. And so that gives me some cause for concern as well. We can't have people in every classroom and every room, and there's gonna be a lot of people, and they're just gonna start looking at stuff.
So was the idea to let them go in classrooms and all of that? It wasn't just hallways? I don't
Oh,
know.
no, it was
everything.
it was everywhere.
It
Everywhere.
was come in, reminisce in the library. That's,
We let 'em go
where I had my
everywhere.
first boyfriend or,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah,
Like, they
exactly.
were literally going in and,
Well, as long as the
Reminiscing.
board is okay knowing that this building is not going to look good.
Well,
once
neither
we
did
vacate it.
Sill.
I don't
They
want.
Sill
Yeah,
had a
yeah,
tree
they-
growing in the middle of
What's
it.
that? Say that again?
Sill had a tree growing in the middle of it.
Well, if that's what we like to.
The mold smell at Newberry was quite strong.
And I think that our police department had already practiced at Newberry, correct? When we
Might
toured
have.
Newberry?
Maybe it was
I don't
Sill that
know.
they had.
Was that so? Where they were,
Take less.
so we
Breaking
would
down
need to have the
doors.
final,
Was it
we would
so?
need to have
Oh,
these
right,
tours
right,
then
right.
in January, if that's what everyone said.
Real soon after January because of, again, the abatement at Bullock. If we're selling, I mean, we control the sell date, I mean, the closing date. But, and the high school, actually, the high school really doesn't matter because we're going to occupy it because we have CTE here, auto tech. And if you're spacing them out, then I would just suggest make sure you do Bullock first, and then probably Rothberg's.
Right. Okay.
And then maybe we do consider the ribbon cutting in the fall, late fall, like after we get it.
I think people are
Yeah.
going to, as soon as they know we have the keys and we're
Yeah.
using the stadium, they're gonna
Yeah.
wanna see the inside of that building.
I think so.
And the weather,
And
you
tour.
still might have a chance of weather not being so bad in
Exactly.
November.
Yeah, do you want everyone
Exactly.
traipsing
Well,
snow?
if
in
it's
our
November
building?
26th, we
Right.
might not be able to do it then, but maybe early December.
If we get it.
Thanksgiving.
Wow.
What's that?
But early December even might be.
Well, the core team meets tomorrow. I'll push them.
All right.
A little
So,
early, please.
so I think,
27.
Oh, it's on the 27th.
so I think that
It
we're
would be
saying.
a hello,
Jan-
goodbye.
So, yeah, like, if we could do a hello in November or December, and then have a goodbye in January, we're just kind of flipping our events.
Yeah, that makes
And-
sense.
And I think, I didn't think about this before because of doing the tours with the buildings open, with everybody taking things. Thinking people that are really sentimental are gonna take something even if we're still occupying the building.
That's
as well.
fact.
That could be.
Yeah.
So,
I'd rather than.
we might
yeah.
be missing things the
Yeah.
next day.
It's a really good point you made.
They might be
So do you
personal
want
items.
to look at a calendar now and propose dates? Do you want me to come back
Well,
with dates?
I mean, I think that maybe you could propose dates that are good for you're the one that is doing all the work with the 6 through 12 campus and all of that, so I don't know if we need to just throw out dates that are good for us. They need to be good for you.
All right, we'll meet, our team will meet, and we'll come up with,
And-
all dates.
And I dare say that the Alumni Foundation would probably love to be a part of that farewell, and would probably love to volunteer and be the people that are guiding people around
There
or
you go.
whatever.
We'll talk about it last night.
Yeah.
Yes. There you go. So,
Okay,
they'll be
we'll
more
come
than
back with
happy.
some dates, but we're okay on the Cliffords. It looked like I saw lots of nods. on the
Yeah, it's-
They can
Yes.
volunteer, but they can't be in charge of it. The
So-
alumni. Just make that clear to them.
We
All
said,
right, no comment, we're moving on.
we told the community in our last drawer that we would announce the dates of the farewell tours, and I need to have this done by the end of next week.
Okay.
Would we be able to have the dates of those final tours by the end of next week?
If you guys talk about it at core team tomorrow,
Yeah,
We
we
can.
can, and I think it's early enough
I
in
didn't know if
advance.
that's
we can-
I think just send in Friday notes.
no, we don't.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah,
No,
okay.
we don't.
No, it's
Okay.
fine. So we don't have to vote on it, right?
No.
Yeah, right, okay.
Everyone good, not
We're
voting?
good.
No.
We're not legally required to.
No, we
but
don't
I
vote,
think
yeah.
we don't.
Item 10, future agenda items.
You want to just at the next meeting, it's just
Yes,
executive
yeah.
session.
So our next meeting, that is our work session, as you know, Dr. Silico and Mrs. Stokely will both be gone. So we're going to use that meeting as an executive session and do our, say reviews, that's not right, evaluation, thank you.
Evaluation, too.
For Dr. Selico and Ms. Stokely that night as a board. You should have all gotten those, not this past Friday, but the Friday before. So if you come prepared, we can do it quickly, and if it's a nice night, get out quick. But that's what we will be doing is, just that executive session will be our work session, so, at our next meeting. And then we will give our reviews. And the reason I asked Ms. Stokely if she was available in July was just if you would have to be out in July, we could do your evaluation first at the last meeting in June. That way it's done. Is everyone good with that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other future agenda items? All right. Takes us to item 11, committee reports. Ms. White, did you have another?
We meet tomorrow.
Okay. You didn't meet. Illness, no board policy, business alliance, I was not able to, oh, I'm sorry.
No,
That's not that one.
we're done.
District
We're
wellness
done for the year.
and financial was not. Alumni Foundation, Dr. Selico, did you want to mention anything else? I was not able to go last night.
No, a lot of it was just talking about, we met some new folks that joined the foundation, and then the only other thing was really, we talked about the bricks and Clifford's, and then we talked about the arch and how that could perhaps be embedded into that, and convocation dates and their role in that, and spreading the word, and then the move, what their room would look like, and how we would move their things, et cetera. So,
Do you have your date for convocation?
we do, August 14th.
I believe I already have that on my calendar for, no, I do not, thank you.
But that would
Right, legislative liaison, Mr. Harris?
Mr. Gomez and Ms. Stoikoway gave a pretty good update on where we are with things. While we were in a meeting, the Senate did pass their version of the budget. So next steps, that'll go into conference committee. The House and Senate will kind of hash out their differences, see if they want to change anything, so I'll keep everyone updated. Regarding House Bill 335, again, I had spoken with Ms. Stoikoway and asked her to give a pretty good update on that. I appreciate her doing so. I do want to let folks at home who do listen to these meetings, let them know, Mr. Gomez mentioned one of the sponsors on this is Representative Romer. Please reach out to him. Please contact him. We went over, Ms. Stoikoway went over why this bill is not right for public education and what it's going to do. His phone number, his office is 614-644-5085, and his email is rep, REP31, the number 31, at ohiohouse.gov. Please reach out to his office. Make sure they have your name, return number, and all that stuff. Let them know you are in this district and that you are unhappy with House Bill 335. So I will keep everyone posted at the last meeting, see if there are any differences in what the House and the Senate are hashing out here, and we'll keep you guys posted. But I appreciate you all, Mr. Gomez especially, thank you for all your updates. Dr. C and Christy, you all send us, your updates you're getting from your organization. So we're all doing some really good work here, and it's just making sure people in our neighbors, folks in our community know that this is not property tax relief. This is, again, $1.5 billion coming from our public schools. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. And nothing else, Ms. White, correct?
No, that we don't.
Item 12 is our comments. Mr. Gomez, you are up first.
Yeah, I wanted to, just one thing from the ending of the school year, was able to attend Lincoln Relay Recess, which is always such a wonderful event. I want to report that they raised almost $4,000 for the American Cancer Society. On a sad note, I want to extend my condolences to Mayor Dunphy of the Village of Silver Lake on the loss of her mother-in-law earlier last week. And then, one last thing, there is a constitutional amendment petition going around to eliminate property taxes in the state of Ohio. This constitutional amendment has no alternative funding source for those of us that rely on property taxes, and was recently alerted that there is a location in Cuyahoga Falls that is trying to collect signatures for this constitutional amendment. I just want to make folks in our community aware of this, how dangerous it would be, and encourage them to, if asked, decline to sign said petition. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. Mr. Harris.
I have no comments.
Mrs. Schaefer.
Nothing for me.
And Ms. White.
Just one real quickly, I meant to do this last time, but I didn't get a chance, it was so late. So real quickly, I can't remember the other two things I wanted to mention, but I remember that we now have the internet and tech at the new high school all done. So thank you to our team. I do appreciate, that was exciting, I know. And then there was something about Mrs. Brown and at Preston, and something that but I can't quite remember what it was. But at any rate, that's still pretty much all I have, yeah.
Thank you. And I don't have any comments either. The one thing that I didn't mention last time because it was so late was the fundraiser for our agriculture program that was at Hi-Ho a few weeks ago. I lose track of time, but I know it was previous to our last meeting, and I just wanted to, the community that showed up for that, and I don't know how much money it had to be a lot.
It was over $6,000.
Yeah, but it was an amazing event as always, and they did a great job, so I just wanted to mention that. Other than that, happy beginning of summer to everyone. And that brings us to item I, adjournment. It is recommended that the Board of Education adjourns this meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Right.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you.
Meeting adjourned at 7:42 PM.